The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil. Or just take a drink.
Hello. I didn't see you there. I was just sipping on my bourbon on this lovely evening and didn't realize you were there.
What? Oh, this old thing?
Oh, here I am sitting in front of my computer with my headset. I had no idea what was about to happen.
What are you drinking?
This is a little Knob Creek single barrel.
Nice.
It's a bourbon.
Sure.
I was really into Scotch, and then I moved to Ohio, which is Cincinnati it's like moving into Kentucky almost, and it's like you could drink Scotch, but like it just feels like it might as well not even be American. I might as well be from I might as well live in one of them blues states. I don't really mean that. I don't. The thing we don't do on this show is get into that nonsense. That's
true.
not a thing we do.
That's true.
That's not a thing we do. This is a haven from the nonsense. Speaking of which, let me talk about let me get away from the nonsense for a second.
Okay.
Last night I was so tired, Andy.
How tired were you?
I was so tired, Andrew. Andrew, I was so tired that picture this. I couldn't watch a normal television show.
I don't believe. Who are you?
I know. I had all this stuff I wanted to watch. We're catching up on the we've got a couple episodes of Westworld left. That's beside the point. I haven't even begun the series of American Gods. I've got to finish up the last season of Better Call Saul. I've got 2 episodes of South Park to watch. I've got an episode of The Lethal Weapon to watch because shut up, that's why. And I'm catching up. Although I did get to watch the new episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm this Sunday, which of course makes me very happy. But I'm also watching all the old episodes and watching all the old Seinfeld episodes. And there's a new season of one. No,
my wife to murder and Gilder to frame for it. I'm swamped.
That's right. Exactly.
Get some rest
well,
if you don't have your health.
You don't have your health. You have nothing.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have One Mississippi, the whole new second season of One Mississippi to watch.
I have not even
the whole
heard
new season of
show.
Transparent to watch.
What is One Mississippi?
Oh, Andy, One Mississippi. It's Tig Notaro's show on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen the first season. It is beautiful, Andy.
I'm all in on that concept. I love.
I'm all in on her.
Yeah.
I'm all in on her. I'm a little bummed out about the fact that she and Louis C.K. are not connected the way they once were, and that there's this interesting gap there, and that there's these, the allegations or whatever, the rumors, whatever you want to call them. They're not really allegations at this point, but I'm just not even ready to process that.
Right.
Like we lost. I'm just not ready to process that.
Right.
So I don't know, but Tig. So right now I'm living in the tension. But Tig Notaro is phenomenal, and her show is wonderful.
Okay.
And then Crystal wants to start watching the Santa Clarita Diet, which I haven't seen yet.
Nice.
Krista's the wife, for those who have never met her or are watching the show, from wifey, as it were. I once knew a guy who only referred to his wife as his bride, and I loved it. And then I found out that he'd been cheating on her for years, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that.
Really? Because it sounds like because it sounds like if you like my bride, who I am prepping to cook and eat later. I don't know. There's something about it that just
I don't know. I always liked
weird.
it. I love calling my wife my wife, and I think some people are like, oh, it's all about ownership, and I'm like, well, I think anyone who knows us knows that's not true.
Sure.
I think I'm still just blown away that someone would actually marry me.
Right.
Like 9 years in, and I'm still like, I wake up and I'm like, you're still here?
Right.
Do you know me? Like,
right.
But anyways, so.
I'm functionally.
So last night I was so tired.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You're functional.
Well, I'm functionally like 8 months out, and a year after Shayna, second breakfast wifey number 2, from her saying yes, and we're 8 months out from doing the deed, and I mean, every day I'm like, wait, like, you can back out, like, like if you, it's, you're good, like,
One of my
you know,
one of my favorite theologians. He's this Irish guy. He's actually alive right now, and he's kind of a postmodern existentialist pop theologian. And he says his name's Peter Rollins. He's Irish, and he says, proposing to someone is literally the worst thing you could possibly do to someone you love. It's like you love someone so much that you're like, here, I'll give you this ring if you promise never to leave me. He's like, what's the worst thing you could do to someone you love than make them promise to stay with you? It's like, and I'm like, he's not married, by the way, but he's not wrong either.
nice.
So, anyways,
Go ahead.
Andy, last night I was so tired. Picture this. I'm so tired that I'm like, and this is why I have cable and not just streaming services.
Sure.
Because there's a thing that people don't understand, is that streaming services are not compatible with casual watching. They really aren't. You can say whatever you want, but if you're streaming something, you're like, I hit a button, like I have to watch this. And in the good old days, you just kind of flip the channels and be like, I mean, Gilligan's Island is on. Who am I? The Queen of England? I can watch Gilligan's Island.
I watched so much Kate and Allie growing up. So much Kate and Allie.
See, that's my point.
Yes.
Okay, so the year after we graduated from college, I was working at this just awful Italian restaurant in the financial district of Boston. Wow. And I was living, if you'll recall, Andy, the listener will take heed. The listener will take note. I was living in a house with my girlfriend and 6 other college women and me.
Right.
Which in your mind, you're like, Phil, like, live the dream.
No, that sounds terrible.
Nope.
That sounds awful.
Oh, it was shockingly we broke up. Yeah, shockingly we didn't last. I don't.
Like a 14-year-old male brain thinks that's great, and everything over any brain that's female.
Every adult is like, that's a
terrible idea.
So
terrible idea.
Anyways, so she would go off to class, and I would wake up, and we had cable because I insisted on getting cable, right? Sure. So we had cable. So I'd turn on the TV, and I'd wake up before work, and I would watch Wonder Years. No, sorry. Let me start. Golden Girls.
Love it.
For a half hour.
Love it.
Wonder Years for a half hour.
Love it.
Mad About You for a half hour.
Love it.
And then I would go to work.
That's fantastic.
It was amazing. And I had never seen Mad About You before. That was like, I watched the entire series of Mad About You my year after college. And it was delightful. It was delovely. So Andy, picture this. Speaking of Mad About You, Andy. Speaking of Mad About You.
Okay. Starring my best friend Helen Hunt.
This is Andy. It's funny you mentioned Helen Hunt because last night I was so tired. I couldn't watch a show that I cared about. So I started flipping through the channels. It's 11 o'clock at night, mind you, 11:15. And guess what's on the television on one of the pay channels, regular, real cable, the premium channel?
I hope it's as good as it gets.
Andy, it was as good as it gets. What are you, telepathic?
No,
I'll tell you what it wasn't.
I just know you.
It wasn't Project X.
No.
The funny thing is, and I'm not kidding, you can look this up on your Google machine, What Women Want was also on, had I been in a real Helen Hunt mood.
Sure.
But I haven't watched As Good as It Gets in a very long time.
Me neither.
Andy, who's my favorite film actor of all time?
Jack Nicholson.
It is Jack Nicholson, Andy. It is Jack Nicholson. And I was really sad about Tom Petty, and I was sitting there thinking about, and I was and the Vegas thing, it's not even like, obviously we're sad about it. It's almost like we don't even know what to do with ourselves about it.
Yeah.
So it's good, it's like I'm sad, but it's like beyond that. Like it's just, and then Tom Petty died, and I was like, let me just channel all my sadness into this thing. And then As Good as It Gets came on, and I watched it from beginning to end. Stayed up till 1:30 in the morning watching As Good as It Gets.
Yes.
Oh, Andy, it's so good.
Yeah. Yes.
Watch As Good As It Gets, and it's like, okay, it's like, you know when jazz aficionados talk about jazz, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, don't speak. Stop talking. But they'll talk about jazz, or they'll talk about like a Grateful Dead concert. They'll be like, it was right on the borderline of falling apart the whole time, but it like stayed together, right? That movie, when you watch As Good As It Gets, it is literally on the borderline of falling apart at all times. That movie is 30 seconds from being a disaster piece of crap. The entire movie, and instead it's beautiful.
That is, I will say something. That's not unusual for a James L. Brooks movie.
He doesn't really know what he's doing, except that he totally does.
Except that he always knows what he's doing. Yes. Yes.
But when you look at the way they made As Good As It Gets, he just, it's almost like he goes into making a movie just with feelings.
Right.
He's like, I've got some feelings. Let's make a movie. And you're like, that's not a movie to have. You can't just have feelings and make a movie.
But like,
and he's like, look, I just made a brilliant movie.
Like, think about broadcast news or terms of endearment.
Yeah.
Or even something like, didn't he stand by? He
made a movie with Jack Nicholson, Paul Rudd, and Reese Witherspoon. No, not Paul Rudd. I'm sorry. Owen Wilson and Reese Witherspoon a couple years back.
Even the movies he produces, like Big, and Say Anything, like these are. Look, he has some misses. I'm not a huge fan of I'll Do Anything.
Sure,
but Jerry Maguire, like these are all hugely successful movies. And I don't mean box office, although many of them were also that. But like they were absolutely successful at what he wanted to do, and yet. Like, you can see the bones in all of them, but it just makes them more...
Every single one.
Charming, right? It just makes them more charming.
As Good As It Gets is just one of the most beautiful things. And Helen Hunt, I've actually underrated her performance. She got the Oscar, which, of course, I think awards for art are stupid.
Yep.
But she got the Oscar for that, and I was kind of like, well, okay. And I've always undervalued her performance in that movie.
Sure.
And I watched it again because I love Kinnear so much of that movie, and Jack Nicholson again is my favorite. But I watched it again, and I was like, oh, no, she's doing something. Like if you said, let's do a spin-off of just her and that, like her character and her family before Nicholson, I would be like, do that.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on. I'm just going to Andy. I'm going to say the thing. Before we start our talk about, because by the way, this is a Game of Thrones podcast.
Right. In case you didn't know, this was a Game of Thrones podcast.
Clearly, can't you tell? I'm going to say a thing. I miss Helen Hunt, man.
Me too.
I mean, honestly, she's a unique presence.
She's wonderful.
Hashtag Helen Hunt. Pay attention to us. Realize that we love you.
Helen, you may not remember me. We had dinner together in I believe it was the year 2000.
2000. In the year 2000.
No.
Oh.
Nope. Hey, Phil?
Yeah.
Little less bourbon before the show next time. Little less bourbon.
I haven't had anywhere near enough to make any sense of that. That's the problem of having anything to drink in front of people, is then if you do anything dumb, they'll be like, he was drinking.
There you go.
I can't. Trust me. I'm not. I wish that there was enough in me that you could be like, that's a thing. It's not, though. There's not. Okay.
Okay. So folks,
okay. Enough about Helen Hunt and bourbon.
But seriously, Helen, we miss you.
We're into you. We do.
And I miss you personally because I thought we were friends.
Didn't you?
I thought we were friends.
Andy was the president of the student drama group at our esteemed university. I was trying to think of that awesome word. It's gone. And we were. What do you call that thing? The you know what I'm talking about.
Ball peen hammer? Yeah. I took one of them meat thermometers. And I just started whacking it into my ear. Oh, that smuts. Wow.
What's that? What's the thing you call your the place that you went to college? My alma
Alma
mater.
mater?
I was trying to say alma mater.
Sure.
I wanted to sound fancy. It didn't work.
Sure.
Anyway, Andy was the president of our alma mater's theater club for a year, and it happened to be the year that
2
Hank
years.
Azaria came to speak. 2 years, and it happened to be.
Same.
Look at you. You were no one-termer.
No, because it was the first year. Like it wasn't. It was like a lot of
Everything was
big
downhill
things.
after that.
Well, a lot of big things happened that first year. It was our 90th birthday, and Hank Azaria and Helen Hunt came.
Hank Azaria was given an award at Tufts, and he said he would come if he had an opportunity to speak to the theater department, and then he made a point of going out and eating. I mean, he was really great. He was very gracious with his time.
Yes, he was great, and so was
And
she.
then he brought his wife at the time, who was Helen Hunt.
Yes.
And I was not part of the drama hierarchy.
Yep.
So I missed out on that, and that's on me.
And then at the banquet, feting the award winners, I actually sat next to Helen Hunt, and you longtime listeners of the podcast will be stunned to learn that I forgot where I was and who I was talking to, and just started spouting movie lines. And then I remembered where I was and who I was talking to, and she was just kind of looking at me, and then she laughed. And not like at me, but like.
Can you imagine being a grown-up human Helen Hunt, who at this point has already been like won Emmys and Oscars,
Yes.
and is hanging out with
Yes.
college kids,
Yes.
college theater
Yes.
kids, because her husband. No wonder that marriage didn't last.
Right.
She's like, no, that's all right.
Right.
I've got things to do.
But seriously,
Helen.
when she
Helen.
laughed and like we shared a moment, and then I looked over and Hank Azaria was like looking at me and he's like, "You just shared a moment with my wife, and that was awesome." And I feel like my feet still haven't touched the ground. As I was saying,
Can we bottle Helen Hunt's laugh?
I hope so.
Like if you could bottle Helen Hunt's laugh,
Sure.
call it Helen Hunt's laugh. You could sell it. It's
Right.
it's a beautiful laugh.
Sure. So
Okay.
as I
Let's
was
talk
saying,
about Game of Thrones.
this is a Game of Thrones podcast. So Phil and I, for newcomers
These
to the
pipes
podcast,
are clean.
for newcomers to the podcast, we have a tendency to take something. It isn't even necessarily something we love, just something we can tolerate, and then we drive it into the ground with obsession. First, we watched all of Mel Gibson's movies in in chronological order. We called it Project Melway, brought to you by the Gibsonian Institute.
Oh, the Gibsonian Institute.
Literally all of his movies, like 40-something movies. It was horrifying and life-changing. And then we took a bit of a hiatus. We were talking about like 2.5 years last time. It wasn't 2.5 years. It was like 1.5 years. Still a very long time.
It was a long time, but
and-
that's what Mel Gibson will do to you.
That's true. And then Phil had the brilliant idea. I'm so glad he had this idea of
Thanks, honey.
doing a Melway, but with Game of Thrones and going through it episode by episode, and calling it naturally Project Throneway. Now because hey, keep going to that well, baby. As you might imagine, we can't do anything right. So the first episode was the first episode of our Throneway podcast was the first 4 episodes of Game of Thrones. But with this, we're going to start the merely 1 episode per podcast. Not really recapping, although we'll certainly talk about what happens in the episode. And our goal is to keep it to about 15 minutes. And since we're already at about 20,
So we
you know
talk
what?
about Game of Thrones for 5 minutes?
No, let's talk about it for as long as we want to, because you know what, Phil? It's our world.
Because the same amount of people are going to watch it either way.
A, that's true, and B, it's our world. Everyone else is just living in it.
Andy, go Astros.
Go Astros! Super excited. Folks, that alma mater was in Boston. We are facing the Red Sox this week. Nobody's rooting for the Red Sox. Anyway.
Jeremy's rooting for the Red Sox, but he's probably not watching this podcast.
I'm also not sure that Jeremy Goldstein actually exists. I think he might have just been a really vivid figment of both of our imaginations.
I hung out with Jeremy in July.
Did you, though?
Oh.
Right? See what I mean?
I mean, no one else can confirm it.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, I love you. But for the next week or so, I hate the Red Sox. So, Game of Thrones, Episode 1, Season 1, Episode 5, The Wolf and the Lion. Phil, I want to start
Strong episode.
Yes, strong episode. I want to start though with something we didn't talk about last week when we were sort of like setting the stage, and I'm kind of annoyed that we didn't because it's awesome. Starting paradoxically at the beginning with the theme. The theme,
Who saw it coming?
the song, the credit sequence. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I want to talk about the audio. I want to talk about the video. All right, the audio is awesome because I can't think of, like, it just gets you pumped, and also in a weird way, it gets you pumped in a way that's like, you're not ready for what's about to happen. You don't know what's about to happen, but come on, like, get aboard the ship anyway. And it's so, like, it just gets your blood pumping in such a way that you're like, okay, you're probably right, and I'm on board, and I'm never ready. You're never ready. Thoughts about the audio? Thoughts about the tune?
Oh.
Oh God.
I fast forward the credits every week. I
Fair
care
enough.
about it zero.
Fair
I
enough.
care about it maybe. When I heard it the first time, I was like, "Oh, I don't care about this at all."
Wow.
But now here's the deal. Now I've heard it enough times. I'm like, okay, it's good.
Sure.
I get it.
Phil
but
Duvall,
the
man who killed
it's-
poetry.
I know, that's why I felt bad. You started saying all this,
No,
and I
it's
was
cool.
like, I actually thought to myself, maybe he won't ask because
Doug.
Oh, were you having a parade? Because I have to pee right now.
Here's the deal.
No.
Here's the deal. Here's why I actually love it, because Game of Thrones is a show. I mean, I think the theme music is quite nice, but I actually
Right.
love it because Game of Thrones, right from the beginning, and I think we talked about this last week, they kind of just don't give a crap if you follow along. It's just like, we're gonna throw a zillion characters at you very
amazing.
quickly.
It's
They're
amazing.
going to be in a ton of different locations, and you're just going to have to keep up. And one of the
they don't do the thing where they're like, there's like a little card at the bottom that says like
Winterfell,
Winterfell, right? Like King's Landing. They're just
Right.
like, remember,
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Wait, who's that guy? This is why I couldn't get into it for 4 seasons, because they were like, who's that guy? And
Right.
it's like, shh, if you don't remember, that's your fault, idiot.
Right? Oh, you just missed 3
What's
things.
funny
while
is
you're
most shows
wondering-
start out accessible and get more and more inside baseball. Game of Thrones starts out inside baseball and has become more accessible.
Interesting.
That's
Interesting.
crazy.
So one of the
Anyways,
things
go
that they
ahead.
do, one of the
Continue.
things they do is in the opening credit sequence, they take you to all of the locations. It like swoops over the world, basically, and it takes you to all of the locations that you're gonna see in every episode. And that's
Okay.
like, it seems like a small thing, and it's not like,
No, I think that's a really cool thing.
yeah, but it's not, and it's not like, I mean, if Friday Night Lights did that, it would just hover over Dillon, Texas, and you'd be done, right? So,
Yeah.
like, there aren't that many shows that have the opportunity to do that, but I've never seen that before, and it's really, really useful, and I just think it's cool, and also it's neat to watch, like, all the Rube
I think it's
Goldberg
very cool that they did
machines,
that.
like, popping out of the map and stuff. And I'm done
I think
geeking
it's
out over
really
the credit
cool that they did
sequence.
that.
Thank you for saying that, because I might fast forward through some of it too. So there's that too. I'm a little embarrassed by that admission. Anyways, what do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the scene between Robert and Cersei. Well, let's talk about Robert Baratheon.
Yep.
Because because we're not going to talk about him much longer.
It's true. What do you mean? I just like
he's-
all these
he's one
characters
of-
so much.
I mean-
I'm glad nothing bad happens to any of them.
Someone wrote that. Was that you that wrote that on the Facebook group?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I
I'm
wish it
really
had
enjoying these characters. I'm really glad. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens to them over the next few seasons.
been. There it is. There it is.
Robert Baratheon is legitimately one of the least interesting characters to me on the show. I have almost, and I like the actor, so I've mentioned that I like the actor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a character I don't care much about, and I love they give him, and Cersei Lannister is one of my least favorite characters in the show, and people were like, well, she's a bad guy. And I'm like, yeah, but I can enjoy a good bad guy.
Right.
Like, I've never been able to get into Cersei's kind of bad.
Sure.
And the scene between Robert and Cersei this week is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
One of my favorite things. So these two people who are married to each other, who hate each other, and who follow the rules of hating each other and being married to each other, get into a room together and sit down and just have a conversation.
Yep.
And it's so great to see it.
Yes.
Both of them trapped in their own understanding of what they're supposed to be and what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
And it's the one thing they have in common. When I was a kid, I had two older brothers, and neither of them really gave any interest in hanging out with me. My middle brother was the middle brother, and he definitely didn't want anything to do with me. I was the youngest. But whenever he was like in trouble with both my parents, he would sometimes talk to me. And those were my favorite times in the world.
Sure.
And that's what this felt like. It felt like they had nothing else. So they actually shared honesty with each other, and it was spellbinding. It's one of the best scenes. Now that I've gone back and thought it through, it's one of my favorite scenes in the history of the show. It's that scene. I mean,
really,
that's
really
how much
wonderful.
I love it.
I agree with you that Robert Baratheon he's not a great character. I've just finished reading the first book, and he's one of my least favorite characters in the book as well. I think there's more to him in the book, obviously, but it's not like, oh, well, if you read the book, then blah, blah. Nah, he's kind of a buffoon, and he's he's kind of a caricature. But Mark Addy, the actor who plays him, is so good that when he's given the gift of that scene, he slays it. He's
wonderful.
He slays
He's a wonderful actor. Yeah.
You said something last week about how like a lot of the actors have, since you have seen all of the aired episodes, like how a lot of these actors have grown into their characters. Some of them are just better actors now and stuff like that. I'd like to throw Lena Headey in there for Cersei. I'm not thoroughly enjoying her performance right now, and everyone goes crazy for her, and I'm willing to believe that she gets better, and I like her generally. I've liked her in pretty much everything else I've ever seen her in. But I find her, like, she's just kind of a little constipated, with the exception of 2 scenes so far. Maybe 3. And with, I mean, she plays her best in the biggest games. The scene with Joffrey, where she's like, you are my darling boy, and the world will be whatever you want it to be. The scene with Ned, where...
Woof. Man, that scene
in the
with
last
Ned.
episode... Yeah, and then this scene with Robert, like she killed all 3 of them. But sort of generally speaking, meh, which is unfair of me, but I can be unfair.
I mean, I gotta say, I'm not thoroughly impressed with all of the writing around female characters in the show.
Okay.
I will say and this is going into spoiler territory, I will say that I like the character arcs for some of the characters.
Sure.
But, men aren't really good at, and I'm a man, I'm not really good at it either. I'm as sexist as the next chap. But, like, we're not always very good, we're often not very good at understanding how to portray strong women.
Sure.
So when we portray them as strong, we almost always portray them as strong the way we think things are strong.
Right.
And I just gotta, like, my experience of strength in women is it's invariably just a different kind of strength than masculine strength.
It's not write a man and then add boobs, right? Like that's not.
Well, I watched As Good as It Gets last night. It has that phenomenal Jack Nicholson line. How do you write such realistic female characters? And he says, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability. And it was great. Krista was like, well, I never. And I was like, I'm sorry. It's a character. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy.
All of those things. All of those things.
It was 1997, What can you do?
It was a simpler time. It was a much stupider time. That's right. That's right. When I say simple, I mean like slow.
Idiotic.
Right.
Anyways, but yeah, and there was no dragon lady in this episode, right? There was literally no
There was
Daenerys
no
and like
Daenerys and her brother or
there was
Jon
no
Snow.
Targaryen stuff.
Right. Right.
That's right. Okay.
That's right.
Um,
Can I tell you? So Game of Thrones, at least at the beginning, and maybe still, I've kind of tried to, other than people posting on Facebook, "Oh my God, the episode is starting." I've tried to stay away from uh, social media around the show because I when I watch the new seasons, I want to be surprised and stuff, and
sure,
I won't be
sure,
completely
yeah.
because I've still learned, I think, probably everything important. But it's a journey, not the destination. But I
That's not true. But go ahead.
it's
I
the
don't.
destination.
It's absolutely the destination. But go ahead, continue.
You're right. I have forgotten what I was going to say. Uh, Completely and totally. It's totally gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, totally gone.
You feel so bad. You were
That's okay.
talking about we were talking about the female characters and John and what we were talking about. They were King's Landing. I don't know what were you talking about. You
Yes.
forget.
No, that helps. That
You
helps.
got it. Okay, go ahead.
But when I paid a lot of attention to the show, and even now, like I get the sense that Game of Thrones, like, look, it's a show that if you ask them what they pride themselves on, it's excitement and strong characterizations and a human story inside this sort of epic structure. But it also like it made its bones on like shock value to a huge
Oh,
degree. And
unquestionably. This is still the episode, by the way, and you still have these seasons. I mean, like, this is the one where there's just a woman standing there and she just shows her breasts literally for the purpose of showing her breasts. There's
that's right.
no other reason other than,
Literally,
like,
yes.
they might as well have just said HBO on the
That's
across
right.
the top of it.
That's right.
Like,
That's
like
right.
right, like painted across her breasts.
And
HBO.
and Ned Stark's man is just like standing there watching her as we are as the audience.
As the avatar of every straight male.
That's right.
And
That's right. And
half
Ned
the
Stark
women
is like
in the audience.
he's like the dude, dude, like he doesn't say dude,
He's like,
but he might as well.
Can you pick your Tex Avery jaw up off the floor, masked man, and we got to go take care of business.
That's right. I am a seasoned television watcher and a seasoned movie watcher. It takes a lot to
True.
truly shock me. Truly shock me.
Tell me what shocked you, Andy.
When the 8 or 9-year-old boy just full on breastfed in front of everyone.
Just Andy.
Wait, hold up though, in open court. And I know that it wasn't played as like this is totally normal. It was played as what the hell is going on. But it floored me the first time I watched the episode, and it floored me again last night when I rewatched the episode.
Andy.
Floored.
Discomfiting.
Oh man. I mean, yeah.
My loving wife, who is currently nursing a child.
Sure.
And is not only an advocate of nursing, but is actually an advocate of extended nursing, which is to say she doesn't think that it's something you want to give up after the first month or two. She's like, hey, if people want to like give nurse to some degree for into the year, and
sure.
She's like, whatever, man. She was like, wow, that's messed up. Okay. When you get Krista to say that nursing is messed up, you've gone too far.
Right. Turn back.
Right. Like if you gotta consider her like on the edge of that. And and she made a great point, which she was like, can you imagine like having to find the child actor to do that part?
That is exactly what I was like, Phil.
She was like,
kids.
How do you? Oh,
you have kids. Like because here's the deal. It's not just finding the child actor. It's not
finding the parents that are
finding the parents.
Yeah, because if I was, how old was that kid? 8 or 9?
The character in the book is 8. I don't know how old the actor is. Right.
So if I was 8 or 9, and they were like, "Here's like a 35, 40-year-old woman, and you're gonna do this," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm in, 100% in." I'm all in. My parents, however,
right.
would be like, he's in. He's totally in. Should my parents would be like, shouldn't he lose 10 pounds before you cast him?
Nice.
But I'm in therapy. So you know, but really, honestly, I mean, it's amazing to think like they were like, here's what we're gonna do. Your kid's gonna say some awful things. A bunch of people are gonna cuss around him, and then he's gonna pretend to breastfeed on a real boob. Um, and they'll be like, but don't worry, it's on HBO. Everyone will watch it, and that kid will grow up to like live in infamy. It's very strange. It's amazing.
Very weird. Right. That's the other thing.
The great thing is it's supposed to be weird and it works. Good
Right.
news. Good news. Mission accomplished. Land the plane on the aircraft carrier because mission accomplished.
I guess.
You've totally weirded us out.
I guess, but it's so like here's the deal. Yes, it weirded us out, but we both started thinking about like the hiring process for that actor, and maybe that's not where they wanted to take us. I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe that's not.
I think you're right. I think getting into the show. So what's my benchmark TV show? And I hate to be that guy, but my benchmark TV show is The Sopranos.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the first season of The Sopranos when where Tony is the protagonist of the show, and he kills a man. And he kills a man up close. He strangles him from behind with some wire, and it's he's the guy that you're following, and the guy that you love, and the guy who you know the show's about him. Mm-hmm. And he physically kills a guy who's and that's a turning point where you're like. But I guess what I want to say is I never felt like The Sopranos was like they made the point of saying, see, anything is possible. And then they kill off a character in the second season that you love. And they're like, see, literally anything is possible.
Right.
And I think they did that. But like Game of Thrones, everyone's like, anything is possible. But I'm like, yeah, but some of it is just like, who's that for?
Right. Right.
Like everyone's like, George R. R. Martin's a genius. And I'm like, a bit of a perv though, no?
A little bit.
Like
a little bit.
Like he still had to write that.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge on the week that Hugh Hefner, the greatest pervert in the history of America? No, but who am I?
It's very much the Jeff Goldblum line from Jurassic Park. You were so concerned with whether or not you could, you never stopped to ask if you should, right?
In my mind, he has his shirt off when he says that line. But yes,
in my living room, he has his shirt off when he says that line. Phil, can I change something?
Shayna's a lucky woman.
I agree with you.
Something.
Let me edit something I said earlier. More bourbon. I like you on bourbon. I do. I enjoy.
Here's the deal. Can we? I need to make it clear that I'm like sipping on this. I'm very sensitive about this. You know, growing up in an alcoholic family, I'm always sensitive that like people will be like, is he drunk right now? And I want to say to them, and I want to say to people, you'll know when I'm drunk.
It's true. He's not drunk. It's not to stop me from making the joke.
No, it's true. It's fair. I did have someone say to me, this. I actually had this moment at work a few months back where I was talking to somebody that at my work, and they were like, "Are you mad?" And I was like, "Oh, no, you won't have to ask me."
There we go.
Which is silly, but it's true. You're like, "No, it's not. I don't hide it. It's all out there." Like, here you go. Which let's talk about Tyrion Lannister for a minute, because this is a phenomenal episode for the Tyrland. For the imp. Yes. Tyrion the imp, the Lannister imp. His battle scene with Kat is where he's phenomenal.
Yes. She
had to a little bit be like, maybe I was wrong about him, but she wasn't. She was totally fine.
That's right. Yeah, no, he's great. It's the show just so perfectly sets up like two people you're gonna love for as long as they're around, Tyrion and Arya. Like, and this is yet another episode where Arya kills it, and both. But sticking with Tyrion, I do want to say one thing. When Tyrion when the party gets to the Eyrie, It is one of the worst matte paintings I've ever seen in my life. Like it's I don't know. It's
Wait,
like
what is that? When they get to the what?
when they get to the fortress that's like way up in the air with the
Oh,
with the boob and
sure.
the breastfeeding
Sure.
and the stuff. Like
With the boob.
like when you
Boob
see
Tower.
it
When they get to Boob Tower.
when they get to Boob Tower, Boobville, um, lactation station. Um,
Yes, Andy. Yes.
uh, they're
Yes.
like the shot where they see it right in the distance. It's
They're like, if there's nothing like it. And I was like, yeah, because it's a painting.
because it's fake. Because it's fake. There's nothing like
Right.
it because it doesn't exist. Like
Because
yeah,
there's nothing like it, including it. It's not even like it.
yeah, it is as bad of its type of special effect as like the stereotypical like Japanese businessman like running away and looking over his shoulder at the non-existent Godzilla. Like it's that bad from like the Toho movies in the 50s and 60s.
Okay, but they make up for the matte painting by how absolutely ridiculously cool everything about that awful place is.
Totally. Yes.
So the matte painting
Yes.
is terrible, but the concept of the place is amazing.
Yes.
The fact that they have a floor, and they don't really describe, you only get the guess of it, you see it later, but you don't really know yet. But you know that there's like a hole in the floor that they just throw people in.
Yes.
And then the jail cell for Tyrion is amazing.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
It's
yeah.
one of the few things from first season that I straight up remembered.
Sure.
I was like, oh, is this the scene where they show this? I was like, yeah, anyways, I was really excited about that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
like, I was like,
Right.
oh, I guess he's not getting out.
Yes. Yes.
Love
Yes.
it.
Yet
It's a
again,
messed up place.
yet again, I could watch Ned and Arya talk forever. I
Just
like forever.
so this must be the episode for me for smart people where they realize that Ned is in over his head.
Yeah. Yeah, with his
I'm
fight
not-
in the
not
small
smart enough.
council.
I'm not smart enough. Because I'm like, that's right, he's standing up for what's right.
Right.
Can't wait till he's king. Because he's so right and smart. Like
Yes.
clearly
Yep.
he's going to become the king. I mean, I literally went through the whole first season being like, well, when Ned is king, this whole thing is going to work out fine.
Sure. Spoiler.
Like literally the
he
entire
totally becomes king. Spoiler, he becomes king.
Game of Thrones
In
ends with
episode
him winning.
6, tuned in next week. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And it's
He
and
doesn't
whether-
become king.
no. Whether or not you grasp the foreshadowing or realize that he's in over his head or to whatever degree you do or don't, the show does such a good job, better than the book, I'd say, better than the book at like, well, because this book, as good as the book is, it doesn't have Sean Bean reading you Ned's lines.
Scene Bean.
Scene Bean. Hi, Zan. Like,
Hi, Jeff.
right? The dichotomy between like however much you want him to, like however much you think he's going to succeed, and
Yeah.
however much you want him to, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. Success for him is going back to Winterfell and just hanging out with
No,
Kat and
right.
his kids. You know,
Yeah.
like
Just being Lord of the North. He's crushing Lord of the North.
and how close
Everybody was
is
like,
he to
have
that?
Ned Stark be Lord of the North. What's the problem?
How close is he to that? Like,
Yeah.
he's just so close, and and in this episode anyway, he just doesn't get away. He just
All he
just
had
one
to do,
more
all
thing.
he had to do was leave.
All he had to do was leave.
Man, if you're new to the show, you're not prepared for how much you're going to hate Littlefinger in your life.
It's true. I love that actor. I love that actor, Aidan Gillen.
He's doing his job.
Aidan Gillen, I think. Aidan
He's
Gillen.
doing his job.
Yes.
I thought the little bitch fest between him and Varys was boring. And I love Varys. Like, I love Varys, one of my favorite characters in the whole show.
Yeah.
Easily one of my favorite characters in the whole show. Let me say it again. Easily one of my favorite characters in the whole show.
Sure.
And continues to be throughout the show. there was definitely, and I mean, I didn't hate I shouldn't say that. I think I was just sort of like, okay, I get it. You're both really clever.
Right, that's it. It was like evil, evil, evil mustache twirl. Oh
Right,
yes, mustache twirl, evil, evil winky face. And it's like, okay, I get it,
right,
guys.
right.
Right.
You're both very devious and underhanded.
And the great thing about the show generally is like for a show that is epic and over the top, it's actually pretty subtle,
Mhm.
almost always. Like a look.
It's not never when a Clegane is in the room is it subtle.
Well,
At least
that's
not the mountain.
fair. I will have to take your
Andy,
word
he
for it.
decapitated a horse.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair.
Andy,
You're right.
Andy,
Right.
I didn't like that.
Neither did I.
Andy, the part where he decapitated a horse,
Not your favorite part.
I didn't like that part of the show, Andy.
That was pretty.
I
That was
don't.
pretty intense.
That's not okay. It was his horse.
Not anymore. Was
I
was
s-
is the operative word there.
I straight loved the hound showing up.
Totally. Totally. Yes.
Loved it.
You know.
And I loved this straight up loved the conversation of the two guys who were in love while one's shaving the other.
Yeah.
Like I was like there's like and someone pointed out in our Facebook group that
That's a
like
really nice moment. Yeah.
it was lovely. First of all, it was the most tender thing we've seen up to this point.
No question. And of
Like,
course there
it
was
was
blood. Of course the
Right.
blood was involved.
In the meantime, I'm going to slice you a little bit, but don't worry, we're totally in love.
But out of love. Right. Totally.
Right. It's the most tender thing we've seen so far. But there's a ton of exposition in
Yes.
that.
Yes. Yep.
Anyways,
Here's something.
the Clegane round, like the first round of Clegane Bowl, was phenomenal.
Sure. The gentleman shaving the other gentleman, not Renly, but Loris Tyrell, is the young man who has gone on to play Iron Fist in the Netflix series Iron Fist, and the other Netflix series, The Defenders. Yes. I was like, why do I know that man who has like 1980s Michelle Pfeiffer hair? And the answer was, that's Finn Jones. That's Finn Jones.
There you go.
So, yes, he is.
I have not seen the Iron Fist or the Defenders at this point.
He's a really pretty man. Like he's just extraordinarily pretty.
I just like watching him talk.
I do.
And then not talk. I like watching him not talk too.
Right.
I don't know.
That thing where you're talking, that was great. Could you try doing the other thing for a while?
Where you don't talk.
Just stand there and look pretty. Yeah.
Could you just moodily? Can you brood a little bit for me?
While you shave some dude on screen.
That's how it works.
That was. Here's a question: Is my impending marriage doomed because we don't shave each other's chests? Well, she doesn't shave my chest. Is that? Are we doomed?
Andy, as a person who has done a lot of premarital counseling for couples,
Yeah.
who has been married for 9 years,
Sure.
who has married many people,
Sure.
yeah, your marriage is doomed.
Well, okay. All right. I accept that.
Sorry.
Yeah. So
I love you. Yeah, listen, when she leaves you, I will be there for you.
I appreciate that.
These 5 words I swear to you.
So no.
Oh,
Nope. So
Okay.
what else? What else do you want to talk about?
I don't care. I'm so happy. I'm done. It's fine. I don't know who's going to watch this. I'd love to know if people are enjoying us doing this. I'm enjoying talking to you about it.
Me too.
I'm hoping we get back to see Daenerys. And the funny thing is now I remember all the things. I'm starting to remember the things that happened, totally forgetting when they happened.
Sure.
And they're doing a really good job of making sure we don't see Joffrey too much because they know that too much Joffrey will make us turn the television off because he's such a hateful human being.
He's so punchable. He's just so punchable.
Ned Stark got a spear in the leg, and then they just were like, let's just leave him there with the spear.
Yep. Episode over.
The guy getting stabbed in the face made me sad.
Me too.
I think one of the things we should start doing is a death toll, and we haven't been doing that. I think that's a shame. I've got some work to do on that.
All right. We'll start that next week.
But a lot of people died in the last episode.
It's true. And none of them died pretty. Like, nobody dies in their sleep in their bed. That never happens.
Here's the thing. Nope. Nope.
Well, okay.
Well, anyways, they do a great job of cliffhangers. They do a great job of making sure that wherever they leave something, you're like, what?
Right.
We'll find out next. I'm looking forward to the next episode for sure. I
Me
will
too.
say, someone is saying, I wish that they're sad that we're not binge watching because binge watching is way more fun. To which I say, you're not wrong. But we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we have to be obsessive in how we approach this, because otherwise we wouldn't be us.
Andy, I'm worried we're not being obsessive enough.
Let's after we hang up the after we end the podcast, let's talk for the next 7 hours about how we're not being obsessive enough. Sound good?
That might lead us in the right direction.
Maybe as a prologue to the actual work, folks. This will bring us to the end of another Second Breakfast podcast, the second installment of Project Throneway. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. You haven't, because we've had a blast.
You're ending it against my better judgment, but you do what you need to do.
Yep. Take us out, Phil. What do you want to say?
No, I never want to end. It's just I would do this show for 7 hours and be like, why aren't more people watching our 7-hour podcast about? But you're right. It's time. No, it's time. My objections have been noted. It's time.
They're in the record, folks. Enjoy Game of Thrones season 1, episode 6 for next week. We will see you then. Until then, have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.